justice in Cambodia.
តើយុត្តិធម៌ឬនីតិរដ្ឋភាព
Between 1975 and 1979, the green rice fields of Cambodia became the killing fields of Cambodia. Over 2 million lives were lost, including the lives of my own parents and many of my relatives. The Khmer Rouge wanted a society that is equal according to them. We still live and we are haunted with the legacy of the Khmer Rouge, which is the culture of impunity that continues to exist in Cambodia today. It is for this reason that we have started a campaign, worldwide campaign, a campaign to end impunity in Cambodia by seeking justice for cases, for the executions, for the killings that are organized, that are backed by the state. Among those cases of state-backed killings are the killings of Chivichir, a very famous trade union leader, Biset Pilaka, a ballet dancer, of Kemlay, an independent analyst, of Chutvuti, a well-known environmentalist, of Venerable Sun Bunthun, who was advocating for the monks to have the right to vote, including workers who demanded fair wages. The campaign will also advocate for governments that are members of the United Nations to put pressure on the government of Cambodia to conduct independent investigations by using universal tools such as the UN Protocol for Independent Investigation. The campaign will also advocate for governments that believe and want to protect universal human rights to impose sanctions on the leaders of the government of Cambodia who are implicated in these state-backed extrajudicial killings. We ask you to be with us, to support us, to be part of a campaign to end the culture of impunity in Cambodia and to find justice for those who have been waiting for justice for their loved ones killed by the state. There cannot be real peace unless there is justice. There cannot be justice unless there is independent investigation. And then take those cases to an independent justice system. Join us by signing on this petition. Thank you.
យើងរួមគ្នាបញ្ចប់នីតិរដ្ឋភាពដើម្បីយុត្តិធម៌នៅកម្ពុជា
Please help to support our petitions at change.org. I just checked a minute ago. We at 59,000, almost 500 signatures, so almost 60,000 signatures. Your help is really important. Please help to sign, please help to share, and please help to help anyone who need help signing the petition. Almost 60,000 signatures, and we're looking for 500,000 signatures. So please help to sign our petitions. I would like to welcome my two wonderful guests for tonight. My first guest, her name is Sita Arunson. She is the CNRP America supporter in California. Let me bring her in. Kim Hiệp Sua Bong.
Kim Riep Sua.
How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for inviting me tonight.
Thank you for being here. Can you introduce yourself a little bit for our viewer?
Of course. My name is Sita Runson, and I'm a social worker here in my town, Fresno, California. And I come on the show occasionally, which I'm glad to be here to talk about our Cambodian nation and what's going on over there right now.
Thank you, Bong. Thank you for always being here, and thank you for helping us out. My next guest, his name is Rati Ung. He is the president of the CNRPA America. Let's meet him. Nghiệp sư Lục Bố.
Hello, hi everyone, and thank you for inviting me to be part of your prestige TV shows in English, of course. And it's very great. Good to be here.
Thank you, Lục Bố. I know you are very busy, one busy person. Can you share with our audience what do you do on your spare time besides helping out the country?
Spare times, I had to fulfill my duty as a father of my two youngest one and as a husband, and not much time spent with them, with my wife either. But although I have, I try to enjoy my life with them a little bit because we have to balance everything that we can do, and also follow news from CNN to the world news so that we can abridge our knowledge and the work that we're doing right now, and follow American politics, what are they doing, and what next that we should do to work closely with the American politicians so that our issue can be brought up to the attention.
Thank you, Lục Bố, and thank you for being here today.
Thank you.
I just noticed that today is Read Across America. So for our Cambodian viewer that in Cambodia it might not know is Read Across America is a program. Basically, it's a celebration. If you in school, it's a whole week long. Also today is Dr. Seuss' birthday, which is encourage kids to read, to enjoy the reading. So I have two books. One of them by a Cambodian American lady. She's been to our show many times. She is beautiful inside and outside. The book name is Daughter of the Killing Field. I haven't heard her promoting her book lately, so maybe I can invite her sometime to show and to talk about her book. It's an inspiration story, and the most important is the ending. She's basically meet one of the Khmer Rouge leader, which is Khieu Samphan, and that is something that I'm not sure about you. If you have a family that's suffering the whole time doing Khmer Rouge and you happen to meet the leader, if I were her, I'd probably grab my hand across the table and grab his neck, but she didn't do that. So it's an inspiration, and like I said, she's been in our show many times. She's beautiful inside and outside. We'll check her schedule, but lately she's been busy with the kangaroo trial in Cambodia. So that's if you haven't read or you haven't read her book, it's really highly recommended. That's one. And another one is a book called A Slice of Life. It's by Brenda Blish. She's basically talking. This is from American mother's standpoint. She adopted two Cambodian kids from basically the Thai refugee camp, and she basically telling her story from her point of view, where she prepare herself physically, mentally, and also prepare her home and her family to bring in Cambodian refugee kids. And that's how she basically talked about her life, talking about their life, talking about how her family, she has daughters, and basically she married, she had three or four daughters, and then she's brought in two Cambodian kids who basically adopted two Cambodian kids. So that's a great book to read.
Wow.
Two different perspectives. So
how old is Dr. Seuss right now?
Oh, I have no over 100.
Famous characters. That's very wonderful to remember that. You know.
Yes,
you might grow up some of these book, but I didn't. So I always just follow with my kids. That's why I learned about Dr. Seuss. Otherwise, I wouldn't know who Dr. Seuss is or was, you know. So that's
Yeah,
great.
my second, I mean, usually they read across America usually celebrate the week of his birthday. So you will on Facebook or on Instagram or on Twitter, you would see hashtag read across America, and that is exactly that. Encourage everyone to pick up a book and read, inspire to read, and as we know, reading will open the door to many opportunity, also open the door to many new idea, not just opportunity, but let someone look at a topic differently. Basically, open your mind, open the window to outside world.
That's great. Yes, absolutely.
Do you have a favorite book, Mr. Ritti?
I mostly read about the about leadership books and different things, and right now I'm trying to read about President Obama. So little things, just little time I have. Most of my reading mostly would follow with Cambodian news and
Yes.
something else. So
yes, expand our mind when we read. So I enjoy
absolutely.
that, and it's
The more you read, the better you become. So, and the more knowledge you built in. So
exactly. Well, let's get on to the current event. I mean, before we get to our topic, let's get down to the current event. Yesterday, CNRP released a statement regarding a court verdict against CNRP leaders. Basically, there's 9 CNRP leaders that got convicted yesterday without being in court, without being in Cambodia. So the statement would read a little. I'm going to read a little bit because it is 2 pages and is also on our website. The Cambodian National Rescue Party fully deny all the charges and resolutely reject the verdict by the Phnom Penh court on March 1st, 2020. So basically saying that they are rejecting it. So throughout the Rushmah trial conduct from November 2020 to February 2021, no reliable evidence was presented. The defendant were not allowed to present, and the public was largely excluded from the proceeding. So basically, a verdict without anybody being in there. So this announcement by the court is a political decision that rubber stamped the daily coup that started in September 2017 with the illegal arrest of the opposition leader and CNRP President Kum Sakha till today. It's ironic that this verdict came out yesterday while Mr. Kum Sakha is still in Cambodia waiting for his trial, and we will talk about that in our topic regarding COVID-19. So basically, we did denying all these stuff, all these charges that the basically Kangaroo Court of Cambodia basically it's not the court, it's Hun Sen Mao that telling the court what to do. Mr. Ritti would like to add anything to that statement from yesterday?
yes, I think that speaks well about the about how the regimes has become. We know that the we always saying that you cannot teach the old dog with new trick, and I think as a former Khmer Rouge leaders and trying to be somehow democratic leaders, but he couldn't hide it, the past experience and the way that he been trained as a communist leader, and to now because of the pressure that being put in by our activists demanding from free election to demanding to Hun Sen to give back the votes that they earned, give back the party that they belong, release our prisoners. With the pressures, the nature as a dictator hiding behind the democratic shells. Now it's come out in light, show everybody that Cambodia is nothing but this is a regime that under dictator ruled, under a communist ideology, and that's why we can see that the trial that put the 9 CNRP leaders who live outside Cambodia and charged that attempt to coup d'etat against the government, it just all it falls. And of course, we would deny all charges. We have nobody representing our leaders, and our president, acting president Samusi, got charged without being there for 25 years in prison and revoked his right to vote, revoke his right to do politics in Cambodia. That's for us. It's a day. We are going back to almost year zero. Year zero will be obviously a killing field, but now we're very close to year zero, and that's why we are here as the Cambodian national who lives everywhere outside Cambodia, work so hard, work together trying to demand the justice to return back to Cambodian people, demand democracy return back to Cambodian people, demand that the freedoms of express and human rights had to be has to observe back to Cambodia. And this is what we're doing, and not because we want anything, but we want to make sure that our people live freely and have a free freedom to select their own leader to run the country, not by the military rules. And that's why you can see that the way the Hun Sen being used now it start to spread to different countries in Asia, in Southeast Asia, also in Asian country, and that's why we're not going to stop. Regardless what charge the government of Hun Sen going to do against us, we know that. We know clearly about that. We knew ahead of time, but this is not going to stop us and not going to be intimidate us from doing the work on behalf of our people in Cambodia. So all these we're not going to accept the charges, and we will challenge the charges when the times come to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rithi. And I just want to remind our audience the reason why the CNRP leadership is not in Cambodia defending themselves. I'm not sure you remember our show in January. We talking about Her Excellency Musakur boarding a plane, trying to board a plane to Cambodia, and the government stopped. And also in November 2019, where Mr. Sam Rainsy trying to board a plane going into Cambodia, where they would not let him in. So all these nine CNRP leaders cannot defend themselves. And if you ask question why they're not there, because the government control and the government will not let them into the country. That's how scared they are, and that's how just scaring that they're going down there to just scare them. And Her Excellency Musakur was boarding the plane. She from Boston to LA, and it's got stopped because they wouldn't let her in.
But let's see that, so before Sita can have a chance to respond back. And let's see that if we look at the whole kangaroo court of Cambodia, okay? We, CNRP, we have done nothing wrong but working to help the people to get their rights to be heard, to get their voice to be heard, to exercise the right to elect their leaders, to fight for human rights, to fight for democracy for the people. And those governments try to playing a political game, that game against us, and trying to manipulate us in every which way, from intimidate the witness, put people who protest against the government from doing the wrong thing, place them in jail without due process, and also, and we can see that all those people that are responsible for murdering assassinating the people inside Cambodia, such as Dr. Kamlay, Chivichia, Chilwati, and also so many people are victimized by the government. People died from coup d'etat, but other people died from the government factory worker died on Bain Train highway. Those people, the government never brought them to trial. The government never found out those murderers or those who are involved in killing and assassinating people. They never found them. In fact, people that are associated with the acts get promoted into different positions, and that's how this government is all about: promoting violence and stop people from doing peace demonstration. That's how it is. So we all the example that our leaders outside trying to do, and they stopped us, and not they charge us that they charge them that trying to bring coup d'etat in Cambodia. How? They couldn't even step into Cambodian soil, and they didn't even have a right to do anything, and not even have military forces. How could they do the coup d'etat against the very fierce, powerful government in Cambodia led by Mr. Hun Sen?
Thank you, Mr. Rati. Ms. Sita, would you like to add anything to the release statement from yesterday?
Yeah, just a few. Look, Unrati already said a lot already, and you two cover pretty much everything in there already. But yeah, just piggyback on what everybody already said. That there's no. On one of the reports said that no crucial evidence show that there were coup. And no evidence present at the court to show any of that charge, but they still go ahead and went on with the trial anyway. And the second thing, the charged people, the people who are being accused are not there, and so what kind of democratic trial is that? We know it. Everybody said it already. We know that it's not a democratic country. It has democratic name in the book. They call themselves democratic society, but in every action that they are doing, it's very, very far from democratic society. When just like example, the trial of yesterday for the opposition party. So and the result of that, those leaders being accused of all that, and then being to put them in prison 25 years, that is just ridiculous. And then ban them from vote and to stand for election if they choose to stand to to be in government seat and all that stuff. It's just ridiculous. It's that's just not what democratic country do. So we all know that, but I'm just hoping the rest of the world will wake up and see that too. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, let's start our topic. Our topic is 1 year review, opportunity and crisis during coronavirus pandemic in Cambodia. Basically, we are entering 1 year of COVID-19 in Cambodia, so we will review the opportunity gained by Hun Sen regime and the crisis that Cambodian citizen faces. Are you hearing me okay? I sound like echoing. Okay. So basically, the Cambodia start out with the statement, small country but big heart. It's a humanitarian hero in February where there's a cruise ship. It's called the America Line cruise ship. It's basically trying to dock. Basically, the direction is not coming to Cambodia. The cruise ship does not come to Cambodia. The cruise ship just sailing, but because Japan, Taiwan, Guam, Philippines, and Thailand refused to dock the ship because during that time, COVID-19 was just starting and exploded, and many cruise ship experience of many people have positively tested positive for COVID-19. So as a result, the mentioned country will not let America Line cruise ship dock in their country. But because our small country with big heart, Hun Sen decided to have the cruise ship docked in Cambodia. So basically, I guess that it's not the start of the virus in Cambodia, but it's the start of talking about COVID-19 in Cambodia. Since then, that was in February, and then in March and April, Hun Sen regime was able to pass a law called Governing the Country in the State of Emergency. Do you recall any of that law, Mr. Reti? I know it's over a year ago. That law basically give the government complete authority to restrict freedom of movement and assembly. So basically, they passing their own law restricting Cambodian people from protest. Basically, it's a law that it passed, but Hun Sen never put it to use. But at the same time, we never put it to use. But every day, CNRP activists is being harassed and being arrested. Mr. Reti, would you like to add to that law a little bit so that way we remember this is a year ago?
Yes, I think the law that governing the state of emergency law that Hun Sen have adopted, it clearly try to handcuff democracy into to his own hand, and that's not allow people to mobilize or speak freely, exercise the right of the right to freedom, exercise the right to protest against the government, exercise the right to demand for justice, or anything, stop people from gathering. Why he doing that? Because at those times the CNRP has done so many activities outside and inside, and the threat that Mr. Samuel would lead the CNRP leaders to return home November 19th. And that's another threat that they may plan, because we have done so many activities such as the not participating in elections, not and eating no jokes, and doing a lot of protests against the China built the military base in Cambodia, and the activity against the land grabbers. All those activities, and especially knowing that Mr. Samuel and the leaders of CNRP would come to Cambodia without would come to Cambodia. That's why this law created, sort of to stop us and to allow his government to do anything. He wanted to stop us from going back to Cambodia, and that's why the and now the charge, even the charge, Mr. Samuel and the to 25 years in prison, and the other 9 could face the same similar charges. But the fact is that this law is nothing but to stop us from doing anything that against the government. That's how it is, nothing else. But if there's nothing else going on, that law would not practice. We know that. I just remember that this law only created to stop those who work against him, against corrupted officials, those who want democracy to return back to Cambodia. That's how it is. And just I remember when during the law against Prince Ram Ranrich about having 2 wives, after they charge him with have two wives, and after Mr. Ronald being stripped off his rank, and those laws never applied. The top ranking official in Cambodia have 2 or 3 wives. Nothing happened, but only they only created to harm the Punjab party leaders. That's it. So the same thing with this one. You just want to stop us from going there, and the rest that once we outside, nobody gonna ever heard this law again.
Yeah, that law was created, and their party vote. I mean that the parliament consists of one party, that is CPP, and that law was created while I believe the infection rate was like 300 people till today, which is a year later. I believe the infected rate is still under 1,000, and nobody, and I mean, fortunately, there's no one passed away from COVID-19 in Cambodia, but it's still under 1,000 people got infected. Nabong Sita, would you like to add? Do you remember the law being and that law was going on while the start of COVID-19, where I believe less than 300 people was infected?
Yeah, definitely. It was just an opportunity for Hun Sen government to take advantage of the situation at that time, and he used the coronavirus as a scapegoat to detain the people, the opposition party people who were doing like look Onrati was saying, were doing a lot of activity, and so they want to prevent that from happening. So they used the COVID-19 opportunity to came up with that law to stop people from involving in those activities. That's it. There's, like you said it too, Linda, that at the time the COVID was infected people was about 300, and today a little bit more than 500. So in a way, it's lucky that our people is not harmed by those COVID. Nobody died from it and things like that. But at the same time, Hun Sen took every opportunity to create laws to benefit his party and to make it work against whoever opposed him. So that's what that law was about.
Thank you, Bong, and thank you, Liberty.
At that time, less than 100 people infected, not even serious and infected by COVID-19. So there's all the opportunity for him to install democracy. I believe that's how to stop people from doing anything against him and his people.
Yes, it's very unfortunate that the COVID-19 start out being February 31st from his mouth. The COVID-19 will not be in Cambodia because it's going to be February 31st, and also I think that's like he's also said small country, big heart bringing those people from the cruise ship. Fortunately, that nobody got positive from those cruise ship, but at the same time, all these pointing to there's no infection rate, there's nobody dying, but at the same time he rushed and create all these law. So that's the opportunity that Hun Sen and his regime created, and the opportunity from the COVID-19. The second one that Hun Sen having the opportunity, using those COVID-19 as a step stool, is to delay the trial of Mr. Kamsaka. Since 2000, I guess since 2000, between the earlier 2020, the trial being delayed, and now 2021, it's still delayed, and it's unfortunate that he using it to his benefit. He did dissolve CNRP party, which is the biggest opposition in Cambodia, but at the same time, the party leader have not been charged, and that's something that's against the law. And Mr. Ritti, can you help to elaborate why the leader should be charged before the party being dissolved in Cambodia? That is the law, just they're not following the law.
I think we all know that when Cambodians use the law that according to international law as well, and that's why the they try to manipulate. That's why we call the Hun Sen code is kangaroo code. So that's which is it's settled. But when you see that when people being charged without convicted, and when the political party being charged and without even the person who involved charged, not even convicted by the charge from government, they should have freedom to do anything they wanted to, because nothing go against him, against Mr. Kem Sokha. It's a long overdue, and also all those charges against Kem Sokha based on the fact that one video clip from Australia when he was there visiting Australia, but they never get the defendant that they charge with that they charge Mr. Kem Sokha treason, working with the United States to overthrow Hun Sen government, but never once they issue a summon to get the American leaders or ambassador to come to trial and try to charge against the United States government. Nothing. But the only charge against Mr. Kem Sokha and do all kinds of false charges. But the charge has now been brought up to justice. Mr. Kem Sokha is still waiting, and the delaying, and by delaying to get court hearing dates that so he can come and testify in court. It never happened. Now, while they waiting, they brought another charge again. CNRP leaders brought Mr. Samusi back and charged him right away, and without even have get the defendant come to court. Mr. Samusi attempted to come on November 19, November 2019. They wouldn't let him come. They stated that this is he doing coup d'etat against his government. Madame Moussoufou came attempted, and not attempted, try to present herself, defend herself in court in Cambodia, but the kangaroo court would not allow her to come to Cambodia to face the charges against her and others CNRP leaders. So all these things, all the charges, all the claims the government trying to do is nothing but trying to cover themselves, and because they're afraid that if these CNRP leaders come to trial, if these CNRP leaders come forward and meet with Mr. Kem Sokha, something might happen. Maybe the people will that they try to stop people come to be witness during the trial. They may not be able to stop people from coming to watch the trial, to receive, to welcome the leaders, even those they've been charged criminal against them. So this is all really that the government of Hun Sen very weak, not capable of doing the work that they do against their own people. Also, these people, the government of Hun Sen, just do anything to maintain the power and take the power away from people. So that's how it has happened.
Thank you, Mr. Reti, for explaining on the delay of Mr. Kem Sokha. That's the opportunity that Hun Sen used to, to delay the court. Hun Sen used the COVID-19 to his advantage, and that is exactly what he used.
Absolutely.
Yeah, how funny is that when he trial people who's not inside the country, and the people who's are inside the country, he's not trying, putting them to trial. What kind of court is that? And I just want to elaborate also, the word coup d'etat mean taking force with military. And did any of that happen with the with the opposition party? With any military force or any police force or anything like that?
Actually, Mr. Hun Sen doing coup d'etat against civilians. He brought
it's the other way around, yeah. And then at the same time they put the people who's the victim accuse them of the act, but it's just so obvious and so ridiculous. That's all I have to say about.
Yep.
Let me put a picture. I think these are people that been detained since the COVID-19 or before COVID-19, and they still being detained.
And they continue to
continue.
people.
Yes.
And for what? For speaking up, for just want their right to be heard, just want the basic human right, you know, that everybody on this earth have the right to, and they call that democratic country. It's just every way we turn, it's just being wrong. Everything that we see is just not what they said they claim to be.
Yes, and
right now you can see nine women has been detained because they've been speaking up every Friday against the kangaroo court for arresting or detaining their loved ones, and they have done nothing wrong except exercise the right to protest against injustice by the kangaroo court. So this is so sad that the doomsday of Cambodia has come and continue to go forward if we do nothing about it, and that's why we're not going to stop. And I hope the people will watch the strive, the hungry for democracy, hungry for human rights, hungry for the rule of law by the government from the protesters in Myanmar and Thailand, all those educators, youth, and workers came together and exercised the right to get the voice to be heard. And I hope that Cambodia will learn from that. You know, you don't need to wait for leaders to lead you. You as an individual, join hand together, and you can stop that. You can do it. You know, rather wait to see they bring the gun pointed to you one by one. Come together at a massive level. Those gunpoint cannot point to everyone, and that those gunpoint will becomes protectors become the shell for you to do the protest, asking for your right to be heard. And that's how that's how it happened. And unless we're doing that, you're all going to live in fear every single day. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just want to add to if Cambodian people are fearful of the current government right now, and this gonna continue, and what the future is gonna be like, the second Pol Pot again. Other countries like in Thailand, in Myanmar, their people are standing up. We cannot just sit back and let the government continue to do what they're doing. You know, especially the young people, they need to stand up for their future, because if they don't, Cambodia gonna become the next South Vietnam, Cambodia, Cambodia, Krau. So we either you can accept that, or you want to be, you know, as Cambodia, the real Cambodia, to continue. So they need to think about that hard, and they need to say dictatorship, communist is not what we want, and they need to stand up and fight for those rights for themselves. We out here, we can beg, we can, you know, ask, we can do whatever, but the people on the inside, the one who need to be active for their right. The few people that have been detained, because there are few, like look, Unruti said, only the few, and so they had the government have the chance to just snatch them, throw them in jail. But if mass majority of the people in the country, just like in Myanmar and like in Thailand, they're not going to have the capability of detaining everybody. So we need to do better. Thank you.
Thank you, Bangsarai. Our next section would be the crisis by the COVID-19 that Cambodian citizen faces. And the first portion, we're talking about the advantage that Hun Sen took. Now we're talking about the cost, not the cost, the COVID-19 have caused many jobs in Cambodia. We all know in America, school closed, so in Cambodia, school also closed. What happened in America is they send the kid home with Chromebook. They make sure that the kid have internet. They make sure that every single day the kid is online, make sure the kid is study with their teacher and never miss any educations, even though it's not the same as being there in the classroom, but at the same time, that's what the best we can do. Where we're looking at Cambodia right now. Right now, it's closed. The school closed again because of the COVID-19 spike. So the people that live in the city has internet access. The people who live in the city has money to pay for the teacher to be able to be on Zoom. The people where at the farm, there is no internet. There's no computer. So the kids for the last over a year has no education. For us, when we start out by saying, reading is a good thing, reading is good for you, reading, there's no library, there's no book, and there's no access to the internet. So the kid have not been into any education at all, and that is devastating. And that is something that Hun Sen should take advantage and build from the ground up and help the poor people, help educate the young. But instead, he would rather create a law that will put people in jail and not let people express their feeling. I know, Mr. Rati, you are in educations. How do you feel about this? For the whole year, the kid, basically 90% of Cambodian kid does not go to school, not even have formal education.
That is the unfortunate. You can see that those democratic countries everywhere, not just, you don't have to go that far. Thai, Vietnam, when the COVID hit the country, they provide resources to their own people. They allocate funding to those who lost a job, who need support from the government. But Cambodia, no. They lost a job. The government promised to give them half the salary. Nothing happened. They closed the school, while other countries, they provide resources, say internet access, laptop. We know that we couldn't do that in Cambodia. We know that. But why, if all those majority, 90% of the children have no access and they have no schooling, the top 10% or the people that have children in school, they can access everything they want to. The education not interrupted. The cost of living, the level of classes in Cambodia, it gets worse than any eras that I could remember. Okay, the rich people, the top 10% of Cambodia, the children can attend school. They have private school. They have access to anything they want to educate the children, but not those 90% of the Cambodian children. This is how the communist country rules. This is how the poor country rules. They do not want all the people to be educated. They only want the children and the own followers to be educated so that they can maintain their powers. and that is so clearly identified that. And the people beside that, we can see that the people who owe money to microfinance institution, not just small micro institution, even banking like ACLIDA, that started with microfinance to help the poor. Right now they don't have the poor. They suck every blood that a poor has. They take every advantage that a poor people have to take away the land, to take away the money, to take away their lives. When you lose your land, your house, you lost your life, you lost hope. That's how this dictator's regime doing, to deprive people from access of doing anything, and to take advantage of all those poor people by not providing them hope, by not providing the rights, they're not providing their support, and they just keep on step on top of them every way they could. And that the crisis that created by COVID is not doing any harm to Hun Sen and his followers. It's only doing harm to those who 90% of the people who can afford to live without job, to live without getting money to pay to those institutions, to live without the children being educated, or to pay for the health care when they and children get sick, or find shelter for the to shield the children. This is how it happened. So it's while other people they protected, Cambodian people only protected. Hun Sen only protected for the old people, about top 10%, and that's it. And that's a sad thing, and we do not want that. The people have to realize that and have to come together and demand for justice to be heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rati. And about Sita, would you like to add anything regarding the crisis of COVID-19 cost to the citizen of Cambodia?
Yeah, sure. They already, the Cambodian community and the countryside already struggle with education. On top now, just like you and Lok Onrati said, that they cannot even access to go to the the minimum school that they had initially. Now none. So that's make it worse. And in addition to that, the family, like both of you already mentioned about microfinance. I read a report from Nikkei Asia, and that was reported in April of 2000. That it was almost a year ago. It says that 2.6 million family who borrow from microfinance to support their livelihood, to run a small business and things like that. But right now they are in the brink of. They said that they rather. They in the brink of losing their lands and the asset that they have to put to get those financial loan that they borrow. They rather go out and do business and but it's not happening because of the COVID. So it affects them very harshly. And many of them losing their lands and their homes, and then the bank buy it, and then who buy it? The foreigner, and then the rich people who come back and buy it from the bank, and then so many rich people and foreigner grabbing up those lands, where they force the people who borrowed from microfinancing institution, force them to sell those land and to sell their home. And now the coronavirus make those situations even more serious. So yeah, it's like you all mentioned already. Other government they have their government have plans to help the coronavirus crisis. But Cambodia, we don't see that. We heard about the money pouring in from foreign country to help coronavirus pandemic, but the people themselves don't get those money. The people themselves suffer, just endless. So I don't know what to say anymore about all the situation in Cambodia. It's only getting worse each day, and it's really sad.
Did you happen to recall when you read about microfinance, what the percentage those bank charges?
Oh yeah,
this season?
No, I didn't read what percentage they charge, but I know that the report said 2.6 million family, and the whole country has a little bit over 16 million people. So it's almost 1/5 of the population owe microfinance to the financial institution. So it's not good. It's just not good.
From many time that I read, I'm not gonna able to cite the sources, but I'm thinking it's up in like the 20 or 30% at a time, where the interest rate is more than what the original loan is. I'm thinking that in America we call them predatory lending, where it's like that. So the family cannot afford to even feed themselves, but at the same time they have to think about the money that they owe.
Yeah, and I'm sure when they borrow those money, if they know the little detailed information, if they understood the little detailed information, they probably wouldn't put their land to borrow those money. But I know people who's in Cambodia who was going through, was one of the borrower, and they said they did not understand what they were signing up for. They thought the financial institute backed up by the government, that the government would be looking out for them, and things like that. But no, they did not. They could not manage to run the business, and especially in the coronavirus environment right now, or has been for a year, cannot afford to pay them back. So they at the brink of losing their home and their lands, and I'm pretty sure it's probably the rest of the other borrower, the 2.6 million borrower around the country, has been going through the same situation. So it's really sad.
Yes. And at the same time,
the microfinance, when it initially started in 1992, I was working in Cambodia then, and I was the one who helped the leader to start doing the groundwork at that time. Was a Chani, they don't have place, they don't have institution yet. They trying to do assessment throughout the country. The idea was great to have the poor, and the poor get the microfinance from them, and they get that resource to continue to help all the other poor people, and not get the money larger and larger, keep investing to other people, so that they can get control to their family economy. But after that, I think the greedy start to get into the people, so they start to think about how to get control of people's life. So they start to grab, take advantage to those poor people by putting a lot of interest on them, and the interest rate that they put is unbelievable, and just build up the principal, and the daily rate is it's 120%. If you borrow 100, you have to pay them 20, like that. There's a lot of interest rate in there, and that's accumulated, and yearly it's almost 200%. That's why you stated earlier that the longer you owe, the more likely you're gonna lose everything without even get the benefit back. from the loan that you have from those people. So this is not just the private company in the banking that take advantage of those people. The government support to control those banking so that to support people. But this government does not support the people, but they sleep with the bankers so that they themselves can have a share interest from those bankers. And that's how it happened. So and that's why the people are trying to protest against those people, trying to demand for justice. But now the law that the Hun Sen put in, but preventing them from do anything that democratically to support to make the voice being heard, even asking for and that's why it's very sad, and that's why we cannot stop doing what we are doing outside so that we can asking the free world country to help us to move in this thing that I think to support the people, and that's why we push to get the bill, Magnitsky Act bill everywhere in the country and in the world, so as to stop those rich people from manipulate the powers on the people inside countries such as Cambodia. So I think we cannot stop. We have to continue to work what we're doing and not build the hope to those people that hungry for justice, hungry for democracy, hungry for what is right for them. And let's work, and hopefully younger generation will join us and look up to those countries next to us, our neighboring countries such as Myanmar, as well as Thailand. Let's build coalition and bring the voice of the helplessness. So hopefully the voice can be heard.
Thank you, Mr. Rati. Nabong Sita, would you like to add anything to our conversation of crisis in Cambodia due to COVID-19 that Cambodian citizens still facing?
Like Luk Rati said, microfinancing is to help the poor. And I read many articles before too, not today, but before when I was in my social work school for my social work class. Those microfinance very helpful to those people who in a country that the government have good intention, and the microfinance is worldwide. So with the government of that country help, they help those people, the poor, to become better, sustain themselves. But in Cambodia, the government does not help the poor. Like Luk Rati said, they help the bank, and greed comes in, and then they only help themselves and suck the money from the poor. And now that's why a lot of people are fleeing to a neighbor country, to Korea, to other countries to get work, and they lose their homes, and just a mess. Yeah. And so we just need the people around the world, to say something, and need the people of Cambodia, the younger generation, to stand up for themselves, for their future, for their family future, to join with, the people on the outside, that we are doing things, trying to make noise, make voice be heard to the international community for the Cambodia. So they need to stand up to in order for the country to be better. So that's all I'm asking today, and I'm sure everybody here are doing the same thing, so the people can have better life, for themselves.
Sorry. Thank you, Bong. The reason we reviewing this coronavirus situation, it's been a year, And so far, the Hun Sen regime have not come up with a plan. What we talking about is the crisis with the citizen where they don't have any job. There's no support from the government. The school is not open. There's no support from the government. So it's clearly say the Hun Sen regime create law for their benefit to silence Cambodian people, and at the same time there's no help for Cambodian people. So it's at the end, Cambodian inside need to stand up because it's been over a year and nobody's supporting the government. No, it's not the government. The regime is not supporting them. The regime is not coming and helping them. Basically, that's the end result right now, where the COVID-19 is still happening in Cambodia. School closed. Many places are closed, and at the same time there's no beside knowing how to close the place, there's no proper rule, there's no proper procedures to help the citizen get out of the economic situations.
But the thing, it's sad though, with all these things come to place, the COVID-19, the closure of the schools, but yet you see the weddings inside Cambodia, people attending the wedding ceremonies everywhere, and massive, and not even have the face mask, and it's still sharing the spoon and the foods without caring about the COVID-19. And they say, oh, they know, they care, but they're not, you know. And it is so ridiculous. The government say this, and in the meantime, the government worker doing something differently, openly too. And for us here, you know, we try so hard to protect ourselves. I haven't gotten out to my house for the past three months because the coronavirus period right now. But I think we very limited ourselves. But so that now they go back to Cambodia, and I think you stated very clearly the government has done nothing instead of preventing COVID to the old people, except put more pressure to the people out from outside, so that we won't make trouble to the people inside to stand up. But I think people should learn that. We know that the Buddhas have stated, you know, God can only help us when we help ourselves. Okay, if we don't help ourselves, God cannot help us. The same thing with people in Myanmar, in Thailand. They heard that, and that's why they stand up. They join hands together, they stand up, demanding for justice, demanding that their vote are counted, that the leaders should return back to the position that they voted for them. The same thing. Where as Cambodians become so silent because Hun Sen put a lot of rule of law that against the people's wills, silencing because they stopped our party, main party that people trust, not doing anything. They could not do anything because the rural land that Hun Sen created, and that's why these things had to stop. If the people in Cambodia wanted so much, you got to work together, stand up, and asking them and demanding the government to give what they been charged, what they've been dropped from their hand, such as education, health, job, all those things. They should demand for it. And unless they stand up, it's going to be hard to fight against Mr. Hun Sen. We outside, we work with them, you know, regardless what party they belong to. We work with all people who are willing to stand up against injustice. You know, without standing up together, nobody's going to hear you. Okay, you have to put your own belief in your hand. You have to keep your own future in your hands. Nobody can take away from you unless you believe in that. This is my message to all you, and we're not going to stop that. And that's how this America is so great, because they would not let anything, the chances to get away from their hand. When they got it, they grabbed it and they put together and demand what it is for them, for the country also. The same thing about people. You have to believe that everyone should have a right to live. Everyone should have a right to do anything they want to, like the leaders in their own country. They shouldn't live under one man's rule. They should stand up, go together, and demand for justice.
Thank you, Mr. Reti. Bongsita, would you like to add anything to the conversations? Our shows is at the end right now.
I have two questions instead of a statement. Two questions for Cambodian people around the world, and especially the one in Cambodia. Why do you think Hun Sen's not allowing the opposition party to participate in the election? If you can answer that, then they know. And then the second question is, why are they not doing something to help what they see is being wrong as the people themselves? Like we over here, we all mention it, that when we see something's not right, we speak up, we stand up, we seek for answer. And we know the justice is not just, it's not just a system. The justice system is corrupted in Cambodia. So we know we can't go to them to get help. But as a whole, as a people, as a whole, we can do something and together and show the mass power and can make a difference. The government won't let you make a difference, but we can make a difference ourselves. So yeah, that's second question is for the people. Why are you not participating? Why are you not standing up? Why are you not doing what you can for yourself, for your family, for your future, for your country? That's all I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Bongsita, and thank you, Lograti, today for being here today. I appreciate both of you for being here. Let me, even though we talk about COVID-19, let me make it clear that COVID-19 is still a tough subject to talk about because we ourselves and we know people, we know our family that been affected with COVID-19. So when we talk about COVID-19, it's very tough, and at the same time we're looking at Cambodia where there's infection rate less than 1,000, but the government is doing, not the government, the regime is doing all it can to control and to silence the Cambodian inside. So like Bongsita said it, like Lograti said it, we need to stand up. And before I end the show, I said, we need a leader who has empathy toward his own people. His own people has no job. He should have a plan. His own people doesn't have the kid doesn't go to school. He should have a plan for that. And not a regime that seek to take advantage or take the opportunity, to basically silence his people. And that's the end of that. And we all need to stand up, and we all need to band together and say, it's been a year. He's not helping his government. His regime is not helping anybody beside himself and his pocket.
You say it.
Thank you so much, both guys, and please come back anytime, any day. I mean, anytime on Tuesday, we'll have more discussions and about freedom of speech, because we live in a country that we can speak and freely, and at the same time we can discuss any subject without being worried who's going to be outside our door. So thank